Hi, my name's Meg, and welcome back to my channel. This week we are setting up my March everyday setup, and while I filmed this at the beginning of the month, it took me all month to edit it, because I don't know why. This month, the theme is, of course, one of Taylor Swift's albums, and I decided on the Tortured Poets department for March. The materials that I'm using are black paper, some lyrics printed on sticker paper, some photos from Instagram on sticker paper, a couple of washi tapes, some silicone stamps, jet black ink, and also some white ink, which is not shown. The VersaFine ink is actually waterproof, so it's really handy for this calendar stamp here. And all of the materials that I can think of are going to be linked in the description below. So let's get started with the cover page. Of course, the color scheme for this month is going to be black and white. We also have some Tombow dual brush pens in the upper corner of the screen, as you can see. I'll be using those to draw out the lines and also the titles. And we've got the first stamp going down. I don't have very many stamps that are of typewriters, which would be particularly appropriate for this theme, but I ended up using a fountain pen and ink set, which I think is still appropriate. These photos are from Taylor Swift's Instagram, the easiest place for me to get kind of authentic photos that match the vibe. I didn't have a lot of pre-made stationery, stickers, all that kind of stuff that fit both the typewriter, tortured poets aesthetic and the color scheme being black and white. A lot of the typewriter ephemera that I have has flowers, is kind of a little bit more on the romantic side, so we do what we can. This page, as always, is going to be my calendar and my task list. I try to highlight the weekends so that it's just a little bit more of a visual cue. And the only pen and ink that I'm using for this entire setup is my Pilot Metro Black, and it's got a medium nib on it, and then I'm using TWSBI Black for the ink inside. I'm not particularly good at lettering with these markers yet, but practice makes perfect, so hopefully I improve over time. And this is an acrylic paint marker. I got it from Artex. I don't think I showed it in the original materials list, but it's handy for writing on black paper as well as writing over mistakes that you make on white paper. If you don't want to use kind of correction tape, you can use an acrylic paint marker to kind of layer on some white. And the nice thing about acrylic paint markers is that they do truly layer on. So even though, it may show through the first layer, you can continue to let it dry and then layer on again, and eventually it will become completely opaque. Higher quality markers tend to get opaque faster, but white is a difficult color to make opaque. I'm using black and white washi tape to make some accents on the corners of the page, which then I layer over with some more of Taylor Swift's pictures that continue to bring in the Tortured Poets Department vibe. Next set is my reading log. As I've mentioned in previous videos, I try to record how many minutes per day I read and of what books I am reading. So I'll have in that first column the day and date, the next column will be the total number of minutes, and then the other side, the other page, is my list of books that I ended up picking up throughout the month. I then transfer this information over to my reading journal, of which I have a playlist of videos that you can see. It's just helpful statistics, really. It's not that specific. I don't go down to the minute. I'm usually down to like the 5-minute or quarter hour or something like that. So it's just a fun statistic to see how much I read, and if there's a pattern of certain days of the week I read more or less. I do count audiobooks, ebooks, and physical books. And again, this is all just an estimate. I did recently find out that Audible does keep track of the number of minutes per day you listen, which has been very helpful for me in filling this out throughout the month, because I don't go back to this log every single day and fill it in. Ideally, I would, so that I'm not guessing as much, but sometimes I do take a couple of days and then I come back and try and fill it in as accurately as possible. And now on to our first weekly. I'm trying out a bit of a different layout this month. Normally I do tall boxes that fit long lists of events and tasks, but this time I'm doing a little bit more condensed boxes, and then a separate box for the videos that I am producing throughout the week, as well as the task list of repeatable tasks. So if it's just a one-off thing that only happens one day, it's a very specific task, then I might list it in the actual day. But if it's something that happens multiple times a week, like doing the dishes and doing laundry or taking care of the litter boxes or something like that, it comes over onto the task list, and I can mark off which days I did that task rather than writing the task multiple times. As I showed in the beginning materials setup, I printed out lyrics from certain songs, and this page is obviously themed after the album title song, The Tortured Poets Department. Obviously there are not as many weeks in a month as there are songs on the album, so I just picked the ones that I felt I could do the best job at with decorating and theming it after, and the ones that I liked the most. An unintended side effect of this project, where I'm doing a themed album for every month, is that a lot of these songs are getting stuck in my head. So for the first couple of weeks of March, the 4 songs that I ended up picking were playing on repeat in my head day and night. The images on here are the typewriter and the fountain pen that are in the lyrics video for the Tortured Poets Department. That song doesn't actually have a music video, it just has a lyrics video on YouTube that I've seen. And so I just took the image that was the background of the lyrics video, and I think that it looks pretty nice. Next weekly, we're doing a slightly different layout, but still the same sized boxes. And this week is themed after Fortnite, which has some rich imagery in its music video. I decided instead of cutting out specific lyrics that I would use it a little bit more as just background texture behind some of the photos. So I'm layering that on first, putting some kind of like mirroring size images on either side. I really enjoyed the look of this music video. There's kind of like multiple settings that are happening. The phone booth is actually from the kind of like moving image background in Spotify, but the other images are either inspired by or taken directly from the music video. And it really plays well with the black and white color scheme, I think. It's very striking. We're using a different washi tape as the weekly denotations here, but we're going to continue to use stamps for the dates. I'm putting a piece of scrap paper between them just so that the ink doesn't end up getting transferred from page to page, and we're moving on to the next weekly. It is a little bit ironic that I did make a video space on every week, and the only video that ended up going out during this month is this one that took me all month to edit. So unfortunately that space was not used to the best of its ability throughout this month, but I think that I'm going to try again in April, and we'll see if I can keep up with a little bit closer to a weekly schedule in April. I've been able to do it before, and I'm just not sure what kind of mental block that I had this month. But I want to get past it. I enjoy making these videos. I enjoy recording my setups of the months, and I have clear content that I want to try and create every month regarding fountain pens and inks and what I'm reading, and then these setups, of course. So I've got lots of ideas, and I want to execute on all of them. If you couldn't tell already, this one is themed after the song Guilty as Sin. This one really is a earworm. It stuck in my head more than almost anything else. And now we're on to the last weekly. There are going to be more weekday spots in this than 7, because I like to keep all of the days of the month in that month's setup rather than setting up straight 7-day weeklies and then splitting the month amongst them. Mostly because I am a procrastinator when it comes to setting up my next month. So if I have a week that ends on the 29th of the month, like this one did, and then the 30th is going to be in the next month, there is a chance that I wouldn't finish the setup of the next month until partway through the next week, and then I will be flying blind for the beginning of the next month. So I'd rather just put all of the days of that month within the last weekly, and sometimes I end up with more or less than 7 days in a week on a page. It's just personal preference, really. And you can see that this one is themed after Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, which is one of my favorite songs on the album. I could not stop singing this whenever this album came out. We're going to head back to the cover page. I didn't feel like this page on the right was quite finished, so I ended up taking inspiration from the image that's in the Fortnite setup where there's a whole bunch of papers flying around, and added those. I just kind of drew them. I know that they don't necessarily all look like papers, but I did my best. They're kind of going behind that affirmation card, and then I wanted some of them to come off of the black outline, and then contrasting, I drew some more on the border. I'm pretty pleased with how this ended up turning out. Just a little bit more washi tape, mostly to cover that stamp mark that was unintentional. What stamp mark? See, nobody can see it anymore. Let me know what you think about my take on the Tortured Poets department, and what is your favorite spread that I did in this month's setup? Is there anything that maybe inspired you in the way that you set up your pages? And I'm also curious to hear what people think that my next month's setup is going to be themed after. So which remaining Taylor Swift album, I mean, there are going to be another 9 to go, so which Taylor Swift album am I going to pick for April? Thank you so much for being here with me. I hope that you had an enjoyable experience, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.